From Abraham Lincoln's fatal shot at Ford's theater to James Garfield's deadly encounter, this is every U.S. president's assassination attempt. In 1835, Andrew Jackson became the first sitting president to survive an assassination attempt. The event revealed exactly how exposed the office could be. It was Richard Lawrence who approached Jackson outside the Capitol. He fired 2 pistols at the president at point-blank range. And surprisingly, both the weapons misfired. Jackson, instead of panicking, reportedly attacked Lawrence with his cane in a rush of adrenaline. The incident shocked the nation and showed people that even the most powerful leader wasn't untouchable. Witnesses later reported that Lawrence claimed to be on a divine mission to kill the president. The misfires froze the crowd for a split second, allowing Jackson's staff to close in. But Andrew Jackson wouldn't be the last president to have someone come dangerously close. Even before Ford's theater, Abraham Lincoln narrowly escaped several assassination attempts. In 1861, a plot in Baltimore aimed to ambush him during his train ride to Washington, forcing him to secretly travel at night under heavy guard. Another serious attempt at Lincoln's life was made in 1864, when John Wilkes Booth and Confederate sympathizers began looking for opportunities to strike. He tracked all of Lincoln's routines and all his public appearances, and Lincoln was known to move openly through crowds, shaking hands and attending events. It's safe to say he ignored warnings from his aides. On multiple occasions, men armed and ready were intercepted before they could approach him. These attempts showed just how exposed the president was, raising the question of whether it was merely a matter of time before one of these attempts would take his life. Lincoln surviving these early plots allowed him to lead the nation through its most critical period. But his luck eventually ran out on April 14, 1865, in Ford's theater. On July 2, 1881, President James Garfield was shot at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. His attacker, Charles Guiteau, had convinced himself that Garfield owed him a government job for imagined campaign support. After weeks of closely following the president's schedule, Guiteau approached Garfield from behind and fired 2 shots. One grazed Garfield's arm, but the second struck his back. It was lodged deep inside his body. Garfield didn't die from the gunshot itself. Instead, doctors repeatedly probed the wound with unsterilized fingers and instruments, searching for the bullet without understanding germ theory. These procedures introduced several infections that slowly weakened him over the next 11 weeks. Garfield endured intense pain, weight loss, and fever before dying on September 19, 1881. After Garfield's death, Guiteau insisted the doctors, not his bullets, were responsible. He stuck by that claim throughout his highly publicized trial before being found guilty and executed by hanging in June 1882. And just over a decade later, the pattern repeated. Around 4 p.m. on September 6, 1901, President William McKinley was shot by Leon Czolgosz. He was an anarchist who believed killing political leaders would bring change. During a public reception at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, Czolgosz was seen approaching McKinley as if trying to shake hands. Once close enough, he fired twice at close range with a revolver. One bullet grazed McKinley, and the second struck his abdomen. An X-ray machine was available at the exposition, and immediate medical attention was provided. But doctors chose not to use it, fearing it might harm the president. One bullet was never located, and internal damage went unnoticed, leading to McKinley's condition worsening over the following days. Although President McKinley survived the initial attack, he later died due to the infection caused by the missing bullet. In 1912, Theodore Roosevelt faced an assassination attempt while he was giving his campaign speech in Milwaukee. John Schrank fired a bullet directly at him, but it was slowed by a folded copy of Roosevelt's speech in the thick metal eyeglass case in his jacket pocket. Roosevelt felt the impact but remained standing. He paused for a breather before getting back up and addressing the crowd. Not only that, but he delivered the full 90-minute speech. Reportedly, he even opened his jacket to show the blood-stained manuscript. His bull moose declaration afterward captured the audacity of the moment and the sheer willpower that he just displayed. For some presidents, threats were already closing in before they had even sworn in. Franklin D. Roosevelt also faced threats on multiple fronts throughout his tenure. In February 1933, Giuseppe Zangara fired at him during a public appearance in Miami. He barely missed Roosevelt, but unfortunately killed some of the bystanders, which led to chaos and panic spreading through the crowd. A few years later, Nazi operatives plotted schemes to kidnap and possibly assassinate him while he traveled in the U.S. They had spies gathering intelligence on his every move, and domestic extremists also attempted to target him during rallies and motorcades. Thanks to a vigilant right-hand man and quick thinking by onlookers, these attempts were shut down before any harm could reach Roosevelt. Incidents like these only added layers of tension and caution to his public appearances, forcing the president to rely on instinct and the bravery of those around him to navigate an increasingly dangerous world of politics. The next president would confront danger much closer to the White House itself. On November 1, 1950, President Harry Truman survived an assassination attempt right outside the White House. Two Puerto Ricans, Oscar Collazo and Griselio Torresola, stormed Blair House. Truman was temporarily living there due to ongoing renovations at the White House. Torresola first opened fire at police officers guarding the residence, wounding several. Then Collazo attempted to breach the building. Truman, alerted by gunfire, remained calm and stayed inside. He trusted that the Secret Service and local law enforcement would handle the situation. The FBI quickly responded, and they were able to track the assailants and ensure the president's safety. Torresola was killed, and Collazo was captured. He was later sentenced to life imprisonment. But this wasn't the only time that timely action was the only thing which was standing between a president's life and death. On the sad afternoon of November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was fatally shot while riding a motorcade through Dallas, Texas. As he turned onto Elm Street, Lee Harvey Oswald fired from a nearby building, hitting Kennedy in the head and neck. Secret Service agents immediately scrambled to protect those nearby. Bystanders rushed to assist, but the attack was quick and effective. Kennedy was immediately rushed to Parkland Hospital. Doctors there noted the severity of the head wound almost immediately, realizing there was no realistic chance of recovery. Meanwhile, absolute chaos spread through Dallas while law enforcement rushed to lock down the area. They were unsure whether the shooter was acting alone. Within hours, Oswald was arrested inside the Texas School Book Depository. At the hospital, medical staff attempted resuscitation, but the president was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. As for Lee Harvey Oswald, he was killed 2 days later while still in police custody. That incident added to the uncertainty surrounding the attack. And of course, the threats didn't stop there. On September 5, 1975, at approximately 10 a.m., President Gerald Ford faced an assassination attempt in Sacramento, California. Lynette Squeaky Fromm, a follower of Charles Manson, aimed a handgun at him. The weapon failed to fire because a round was never chambered, and Secret Service agents immediately restrained her before she could try again. Just 17 days later, on September 22nd, Ford faced a second attempt. As he exited his hotel, Sarah Jane Moore fired a single shot at him from across the street. A nearby bystander, Oliver Sipple, instinctively grabbed Moore's arm at the last moment, causing the bullet to miss. Ford was quickly rushed away, unharmed. The two attacks were carried out by unrelated individuals, but were horrifyingly close to each other. Despite all the precautionary measures, could anyone really be prepared for a threat at this level? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.